Gunfire Reborn is an early access game that came to Steam on May 22nd from a company called Duoji Interactive, originating from Hong Kong. It is a FPS roguelite, and I say roguelite because there is actually a progression system in-game which gives each run support a meaning after you complete it. Please do note that there will be spoilers for the bosses and unlockable content in this video. With that being said, onto the actual review. This game's visuals are pretty aesthetically pleasing. Guns have a bunch of different unique designs with particle effects and things and the like, and when you dash, your HUD FOV goes inward a bit to give that sense of depth to the extra speed you gain while doing so. There are a lot of other small little qualities that you might not notice, but without them, the game would definitely look a lot less visually pleasing. Another part of this game's charm is that, for the most part, things that are important in this game are made to stand out. Vaults are seen as large glowing cracks in the wall that are pretty hard to miss, and new unlocks and item drops from enemies glow a bright red or bright blue respectively on the ground so you can tell what it is you just found. And secret chests are a mixture of red and gold, making you feel like you found some rare hidden treasure. The gun design also has quite a lot to offer. While the exact number of them may seem quite small at 34, each weapon is so vastly different from each other. You have basic things like a 3-round burst rifle, or SMG, to a Bone Dragon gravity cannon that shoots a gravity orb that sucks everything in and then implodes on itself to create an explosion. And then you have Mushu. While less in number, the enemies in this game are just as unique in design. You've got stonemen, bandits, catfish, catfishmen, sharks, lobsters, monks, crabs.
Oh yeah, Mr. Crab!
Kappas, pyros, and there's probably more than I missed. Some of these enemies, however, do feel like reskins of enemies that you fought earlier in the game, such as the longbowman and bandit retainer having the same attack, while the only difference is that the retainer will randomly decide to leave this physical realm and reappear somewhere 2 meters to the left the moment you even consider shooting it. The bosses are definitely the most unique thing in this game. Some of them feel like fights you'd see in something like Kingdom Hearts. There's only 3 of them, but the depth of their design is not something to be overlooked. The first boss is a 9-tailed fox, tiger, that can control stone and shoot lasers out of its stone gauntlet, somehow. The second boss is a baby. Yeah, let that one sink in. And you just saw the third boss, which is just a murder boat. As much as I'm ragging on them, the bosses are definitely unique in this game, with each of them having vastly different mechanics and attacks, and all of them look really cool. However, I've talked enough about the designs in this game, let's move on to the gameplay. The movement in this game is simple and satisfying. You can move and dash freely without having to worry about your shots deciding to go at a 90-degree angle out of your gun because you move 2 inches to the right. Moving doesn't affect your accuracy at all. In fact, if you stop moving, you'll die in about 2 seconds. The gun you hold, however, does affect your movement speed, so if you're holding something like a rocket launcher, you're not going to be going very fast. Gunplay in Gunfire gives very good feedback. The gun sounds are nice, and every time you land a shot on a weak point, it makes a sound effect to let you know that you hit the spot. It also changes the color of the damage numbers to yellow. There's also quite a lot of variety. Some guns require pinpoint accuracy, while some you literally don't even have to aim. There's a lot of options here, so experimentation is encouraged to find what style of weapon fits you. Now for what makes this game special, the RNG. This is what ultimately decides whether you love or hate this game. Weapon drops are random, but they do drop quite often, and the game has an enhancement system for each weapon that drops called inscriptions. They modify the weapon's base stats, usually strengthening it, but the inscriptions you get are random. So if you get something like rate of fire on a rocket launcher that has a magazine size of 1, it's not exactly the most useful thing in the world. There's also scrolls you can get that give passive buffs or debuffs to your character that drop randomly from completing challenges and vaults. These also appear randomly. In my opinion, the RNG in this game is a good thing. It keeps each run different from the last, giving it a lot of replay value, and rewards experimentation with different builds per run. The main factor that will decide your build, however, are ascensions. At the end of every stage, you get a goblet that lets you choose from 3 upgrades unique to the character you're playing. Depending on what you get, you can go for damage, utility, or survivability, even further rewarding experimentation. So I've basically been talking this game up for the past couple of minutes. This game can't be all good, right? Well, you're right. Let's go into the cons of the game. The bosses become trivial once you learn the patterns. It's not uncommon to not take a single hit on boss fights once you're past the 10-hour mark or so of playtime. This is all assuming you haven't just shredded the thing instantly. While I'm sure this doesn't come as much of a surprise, the hitboxes are jank. A lot of enemies' head hitboxes feel like they don't exist, especially the bandit retainers. You have to hit the top of their hats to get the weak point hit, and I don't understand why. Now this next con is something that's to be expected. The balancing needs some work. You start the game off very weak since you barely touched the talent tree, but once you've completed the majority of it, it feels almost like you just won't die, and if you look at something hard enough, it'll disappear. I haven't even finished the talent tree, and I have not lost a singular run on elite mode yet. Speaking of, elite mode isn't really all that elite, quote unquote. It actually feels easier than the base game because you unlock a lot of occult scrolls that just make you so much stronger than you should be. There's one that actually stops the damage you take by 90% if they're not within 4 meters of you, and most enemies that could kill you aren't going to be within 4 meters. Now, please do remember this game isn't early access, and it's going to take time to balance things out. This game is only $12 on Steam, and I highly recommend it to you and your friends. Was this review good? Bad? Let me know with a like or dislike and a comment down below, and consider subscribing if you want to see more content like this. I'll be live on Twitch as this video goes live, so consider dropping a follow there as well. The link will be in the description. I'll leave some gameplay on the Elite difficulty up to the first boss just so you can get an idea of what the game looks like once you put some hours into it. Hope you enjoyed. but the inscriptions you get at random. So if you get something about to scream.